Hey everybody, for this video what I want to do is show you Iceberg's or Dremio's first class support for Apache Iceberg. So Apache Iceberg is what's referred to as a data lakehouse table format. It is one of many formats that allows data on your data lake to be treated like a table. So as I mentioned, we added a lakehouse catalog in the form of Nessie. Now Nessie can track Iceberg tables and again interacts just like you would be interacting with a database or a data warehouse. Now this is very unique. So when you have a lakehouse catalog in Dremio, you don't just get the ability to read and run analytics on the data, but you also get the ability to work fully with the data as if you were working within a data warehouse system, meaning allowing you to also do writes. So let's actually see this at work. So I'm going to head over to the SQL runner. Let me just close all these tabs. Okay, discard, I don't want to save any of these. And the cool thing is you can save these for later. So you can actually save them as a script. So you can see here, like there's a save as script option, and then I can actually save code for later. But none of this I want, so I'm going to discard all this, just to cleanse this out a little bit. So that's all closed up. And I'm going to clean that one out. And let's just actually create a table. So basically what I can do is I can say create table, standard SQL, and say create table, and this is going to be in my lakehouse source, so lakehouse dot, and generally, you know, the lakehouse is empty right now. So like again, my catalog is empty. The cool thing is that the catalog itself can actually have sub namespaces for organization. So in that case, I maybe don't want to save the table right in the top level. So I might want to create a folder. So I want to say create folder lakehouse dot db for database. So you might want to treat each folder like its own little database. Okay, so now I can say, hey, create a table lakehouse db dot names, and that schema for that table is names, which is going to be a varchar, and that's it. Just to kind of show this. Now notice here that I actually have multiple queries running. Okay, we haven't done this in the previous videos, but in the Dremio SQL editor, you can actually have multiple queries running, all within one session. Okay, and this can be really useful in a lot of ways. One, it makes it a lot easier than having to like stop, write a query, stop, write a query, and sometimes those queries can then feed off of each other in different ways. And you'll see a little bit of examples of that in this video. But I want to make sure that my cursor is right here at the very front, so that way it starts playing from the very beginning. I'm going to hit run. And I see it created the folder, it created the database, and again, or the title, the table, and I can actually see that in my min.io storage. So if I head over to like the data lakehouse, see there's the DB folder, there's the names table, and inside the names table we see the metadata describing the table. So we are seeing that hey, this table is being persisted to my storage, but when I interact with it on Dremio, it's like I'm interacting with tables inside of a database of any type. Now let's insert some data into that table. So I can say, hey, insert into lakehouse.db.names, and you can see that autocomplete at work, which is pretty nice. Values, and let's just insert my name. Okay, now if I run insert into, it's going to insert that data into the table, and there we go, and that's done. And now if I do select star from lakehouse.db.names, okay, and I can see that that query ran. Oh, nope, still ran the. There we go. Okay, and I can see that I got back my name. Wonderful. So point being is that you can just basically run typical SQL. Once you have an Iceberg catalog connected to Dremio, you essentially unlock full warehouse functionality, and you're working directly on your data lake because your data lake is storing the data. Thus, it's a data warehouse on your data lake. Thus, the term data lake house. And Dremio makes this whole data lake house type pattern very, very easy. Now, let's show you another cool thing specifically about the Nessie catalog. So you notice here that next to that catalog listing and nice sources, that has like this little box that says main. Well, if you ever use Git, usually your main branch is the branch that everybody uses. Like that's where like if you're building an application, when you download the application, you're essentially using the code on the main branch. And then what you do is you create other branches for experimentation, for development. So basically, you have this whole sort of history of your catalog. So as you can see here, I can actually choose where I'm pointing to. If I choose main, I can say, hey, do I want to look at the current state of the main branch? Do I want to look at the main branch at a particular point in time? Or do I want to look at the main branch at the point of a particular change? And I can see the different commits that were made on that, because every time something changes in that catalog, it creates a commit at that catalog level. Okay, so very Git-like. Now right now there's no other branches, so let's create another branch and show you kind of how this works. So what I'm going to do is we're going to say create branch example in Lakehouse, because we have to say which catalog. So I'm saying, hey, in the Lakehouse catalog, create a branch called example. Now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to create or insert some more additional data. Well, first I want to use that branch. So I'm going to say use branch example in Lakehouse. So now I created the branch, I switched over to the branch, and this is where having one session where you can run multiple queries becomes really useful, because now every query going forward is now within the context of that example branch. I could also change that context over here. So once that branch exists, I could select that branch and set the context over here with using the context selector. But I do that, use branch example in Lakehouse. Now what I want to do is do an insert into, and we'll insert into the lakehouse.db.names, and we're going to insert the name of Dremio co-founder Tomer Sharan, current Dremio CMO Reed Maloney. Okay, cool. And we insert that into the record. Okay, and I'll just leave it at that for now. So I'm going to run this query. Okay, and now it's doing the insert into. Cool. Okay, so it ran the query. Now let's do this. In here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a select star from lakehouse.db.names at branch main. Okay, so I'm saying, hey, I want to do this from the main branch. And then I'm going to do select star from lakehouse.db.names at branch example. So now if I run this, I'm going to notice something. If I take a look at the results of query 1, it's just me. But then we just insert 2 records? Well, the reason is because we inserted them on the branch. So they're not visible in the main branch. So why that's important is because the main branch is generally the default branch. So all your analysts and workloads are generally by default going to hit that main branch. They're not seeing the data that you might be ingesting. I'm able to isolate and say, hey, you know what? I want to add some data. I don't want to expose everyone to it right away. So I do it on a branch. And if I see the query on the branch does have the other 2 records. Now the benefit of this is that by isolating that gives me time to go validate the quality of the data on the branch, and then once that quality has been validated, I can then merge that branch. So I can say, hey, merge branch example into main in Lakehouse. So I'm saying, hey, in the Lakehouse catalog, take the example branch and take all the changes in there and put them inside the main branch. Okay? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take those other 2 queries and run those again afterwards. So you can see that things change after we ran that merge. So I'll go over here, I'll hit run. Okay, so it's running the merge, and then it ran the 2 queries. And I can see that now both branches have all the data because they ran that merge. Okay, so that's sort of the beauty of working with branches in Dremio. And the cool thing is, again, Dremio, so far we've used everything within the UI, but you can also send SQL to Dremio via JDBC, ODBC. which is how you're going to connect to most BI tools. You can send queries to Dremio using Apache Aeroflight, and you can send queries over the Dremio via REST API. So a lot of this stuff can be automated through all these channels to create sort of really cool sort of CI/CD type patterns. But with that, that gives you an idea of sort of like, one, that you can create Iceberg tables. So I can see now, if I go back to my sources, my Lakehouse catalog, I can see the DB folder and I can see the little names table in there. But I can also switch between the different branches if I want to take a look at it at a particular point in time. Okay, so basically, the ability to write is a benefit of using an Iceberg catalog, but the branching and Git-for-Data features are specifically a benefit of using a Nessie catalog or Dremio catalog. So there's also an enterprise feature called Dremio catalog where you get a lot of these features built into in a natively built into integrated catalog within Dremio. So with that, I'll see you all later. Have a great day and enjoy.